this is what he put out today. Again, you guys can read along as well at statuscoup.substack.com. Joe Manchin silent as West Virginia Democrats ram through affirmative action plan without consulting Black leadership. So this is a situation where there have been, calls to consult Black leadership and make sure that policies and things that are going through, legislation that's going through, has consulted Black leadership, has consulted Hispanics and people of color. And so through pressure, as you'll see, this was supposed to happen, but that is not at all what happened. What actually happened is shocking. Here's one of the quotes from later on in the article. Why are white people drafting a plan for Hispanics and Black people? West Virginia Dems member Susan Miley shot back in a wild June 3rd meeting. And when Jordan says wild June 3rd meeting, he means a wild June 3rd meeting. The entire 2-hour meeting is posted at the bottom of this article. I've watched part of it. Jordan watched the entire thing. It is crazy. It is crazy what they did to these people. Without further ado, the June 3rd West Virginia State Executive Committee meeting started off well enough. State Party Chairwoman Belinda Biafor, a close ally of West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, introduced 2 new members to the Executive Committee, Hollis Lewis and Mary Thorpe. Lewis and Thorpe also serve as co-chairs for the newly formed State Affirmative Action Committee. So this is going to become very important throughout the article, is this newly formed State Affirmative Action Committee, which Lewis and Thorpe are co-chairs of, which seems like a great step, right? I'm so excited to be here. This is historic. And I think what we're doing now is moving this party, and eventually we're going to move this state in the right direction, Lewis, an African-American, said when introduced. The introductions were 46 years in the making. In 1976, the DNC's charter directed all state parties to create an affirmative action committee and plan. But West Virginia Democrats never formed the committee or plan, only conceding in March to activists and Progressive Party members' pressure for the state party to follow the DNC's directive from decades ago. So there's part of the problem right there. It's taken them this long to take the step that they were supposed to take in the 70s. In the 70s, folks, the 1970s. Continuing on, preceding the executive committee meeting was the first meeting of the AAC on June 2nd. Multiple sources told Status Coup that after the state party bylaws were changed on March 15th to begin the process of forming the AAC, with a deadline 2 months later, Chairwoman Biafor sat on her hands. Biafor expedited the process only after a state party member sent her a frustrated email on April 30th, with the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, and other national DNC members copied, about the lack of action on the formation of the AAC and other diversity committees. So you folks can head on over to statuscoup.substack.com and read that. Over an hour later, the state party sent out an email announcing details of the AAC, including how co-chairs and at-large members will be selected. At the June 2nd AAC meeting, Biafor presented AAC members with an affirmative action plan that was constructed with no input from the AAC, which of course is a violation. And the AAC unanimously rejected that plan. She ignored it as if it did not exist. AAC co-chair Mary Thorpe told Status Coup about Chairwoman Biafor's response to the AAC rejecting the plan. It was never mentioned by her. Following the AAC rejecting Biafor's plan, the State Executive Committee held a meeting the next day that was aired live on YouTube. That's that 2-hour stream referenced earlier. The key agenda item was a vote on the affirmative action plan. At the beginning of the June 3rd Zoom meeting, BF4 set the tone by blocking the 6 at-large members of the AAC, 2 of whom are African American, from joining the meeting. So they're literally blocking out during a vote related to an affirmative action plan, blocking out Black people. Explaining that the 6 at-large AAC members would be let into the meeting after the vote on the affirmative action plan, thus eliminating the chance for their objections to the affirmative action plan. To me, it was just very dismissive. The party itself waited 46 years in order to implement this. And now, after these 46 years, you can't then turn around and say, well, we know what's best and we're going to write this for you. AAC co-chair Hollis told Status Coup. When Chairwoman Biavor tried to proceed to vote on the plan with the at-large members still blocked from entering the meeting, AAC co-chair Thorpe tried to interject. She was met with angry pushback from Biavor. Excuse me, I'm talking about what the plan is about, the chairwoman shot back. Thorpe was shocked by Biafor's heavy-handed attempt to pass an affirmative action plan without input from AAC members. I don't know anybody that can watch that who wouldn't be shocked out of their mind, Thorpe told Status Coup, adding that Biafor's actions exuded arrogance. It matches up with all the stuff that Joe Manchin is doing. It's like, what is he doing this for? He keeps saying he's doing it for the people of West Virginia. What people of West Virginia? As Biafor ignored Thorpe's objection, she claimed that the passage of the plan, already unanimously rejected by the AAC, would not preclude AAC members from making amendments to the plan in the future. So, trying to placate people, of course, she then called for a vote. Pushback erupted among white and minority executive committee members. It defeats the purpose of having an affirmative action committee if they don't have input on the affirmative action plan, state party member Walt Allville objected. But BF4 held fast to keeping the 6 at-large AAC members out of the meeting until the vote on the affirmative action plan. Who does this woman think she is? What is she doing? This is insane. This is crazy. How is this not on CNN? Thank goodness for Status Coup. Thank goodness for Jordan's hard work on this. We don't know who these people are, party member Teddy Grogan, another white woman, said in support of BF4. Think about that. We don't know who these people are. What? Wow. She requested biographies for the AAC members to learn what they bring to the table for the committee. What a racist, just awful person. This is unbelievable. There are no words for how this person on the Democrat side thinks that she's not being racist, that BF4 and this Teddy Grogan think they're not being racist. We don't know who these people are, what they bring to the table, but because, they're Black, therefore they have to be locked out of the meeting. Susan Miley, a Latina state party member, responded with disgust. I can't even comprehend us not seating the members of an affirmative action committee prior to voting on the affirmative action plan when they're the ones that are supposed to be creating the affirmative action plan. I think it looks horribly bad. And others, of course, objected, why are white people drafting a plan for Hispanics and Black people? AAC co-chair Hollis Lewis said, you can't draft something on behalf of us. And this here is Hollis. This is the meeting. It was, of course, a Zoom meeting, as things are these days. Lewis said the meeting's attempt to signal diversity while blocking input from minority voices on an affirmative action plan is part of a wider pattern of the state party straddling the line between messaging on diversity while not alienating Republican voters. So that's what it comes down to. Why is Joe Manchin not speaking out on this? Well, first of all, he's a Republican. He's not a Democrat. Second of all, this is West Virginia. It's a more conservative Republican type state. But these people just going all the way up to Joe Biden, going back to Hillary Clinton, rather than courting progressives, They courted Republicans. Hillary said, she didn't need Bernie supporters. She didn't need progressives. That's what these folks think as well, except in this case, it's outright racist. It's not even veiled. Oh, we don't need these Black people to create this affirmative action plan that is almost 50 years late in being created. As the contentious executive committee meeting went on, party members who were fiercely objecting to AAC members being blocked from the meeting were finding their Zoom microphones muted. Why am I constantly being muted? Walt Allville asked. AAC co-chair Thorpe pointed out that the 6 at-large members have been relegated to the Zoom waiting room throughout the meeting. If that isn't discrimination, I don't know what is, Thorpe said. Chairwoman Biafor shot back that the affirmative action plan has to pass during the meeting, as the deadline to submit to the DNC was the next day. That's the way it has to work, Biafor snapped back after AAC co-chair Thorpe said that's not how it works. She doubled down, insisting it was a draft, etc., etc. Finally, 56 minutes into the 2-hour meeting, dissenting state party members finally forced a change to the meeting agenda that would allow the locked out at-large members to join the meeting before the vote on the affirmative action plan. But once the locked out at-large members had finally been let into the meeting, the majority of their Zoom mics were muted without them having the ability to unmute themselves. I hope you all know how ridiculous we look to everyone watching on YouTube. This is the party we love so much. Are you freaking kidding me? A meeting participant off-screen said. The meeting moved onto a motion on whether to table the vote on the affirmative action meeting, a motion that failed. It gets worse. It gets worse, folks. After a wildly contentious meeting, the end served as the most jarring. After a white member was allowed to submit an amendment to the affirmative action plan that would make the plan stipulate that it is an early draft, Marianne Clater, an African-American, attempted to submit an amendment, pointing out that she kept having her microphone muted. But Biafor shot her down. We've discussed this round and round. Nick moved that. We put it to a vote, so that's what we're going to do. I'm imagining Miss Trunchbull right now, this woman. Claytor responded, okay, so that means we don't have any voice in this. I don't even know why you guys have a Black caucus. As a Black American, this is a slap in the face. As a Black West Virginian, this is a slap in the face, AAC co-chair Lewis shouted. The West Virginia State Democratic Party, Senator Joe Manchin, and the DNC did not respond to requests for comment from Status Coup. And on this page, you can watch the full 2-hour meeting if you indeed have the stomach to watch such a meeting.